Hey guys, so I'm McKinley, and this week we're talking about grading and our discussion board, so I guess I will just dive right in. So, as we all know, we're talking about grading and how we plan to implement grading in our future classroom. And the first question was, how will you keep students informed of their progress during the grading term? And with wanting to go into elementary education, I feel that sometimes it's more of a concern to the parents than it is the student of their grades. So I think the most important thing to do to keep the students and the parents informed is to just really grade things in a timely manner, even if that means staying up a little later at night at home or doing like working on papers during my lunch period at school, and just really pushing myself to get the papers graded in a timely manner, even though it's not the greatest task a teacher wants to do. But that way I can send papers home during the grading period and really keep the parents up to date so they know where their child stands. The next question is, how will achievement be monitored and recorded during the grading period? I think that busy work shouldn't really be a term per se. I think that all work should serve a purpose. There is busy work sometimes, but as a teacher, I hope to never really assign busy work, like things like morning work or activities that they do in centers or just independent activities that they do during math. I want to have a purpose, so I plan to grade those even if they're not taken exactly for a grade to go in the grading book. But that way I know as the teacher where the student stands, and hopefully if I notice a child slipping early on in a particular lesson, I can spend a little bit more time on that lesson, or maybe a little bit more time like one-on-one with that student in particular. So I just really hope to not ever assign busy work and just kind of grade everything, even though it's not ideal. How will effort and knowledge be weighed in your grading? So I understand personally that not everyone tests well exactly, and I know that standardized testing is the only sensible way right now that we can come up with to really test our students' knowledge of the material that we cover. But I feel like as a teacher, I might be a little bit more lenient to students who I know really tried on an assignment, or like I know that they know the material, but it doesn't really show in paper. I feel that I might be a little bit more lenient towards them, and that could be hard on stuff with like math where there's a definite answer, but if they show their work, I know that they tried at least, so I can give them like partial credit for that. Or reading passages, like if they answer like part of the question, and you can just kind of tell with students if they really tried or if they just did it to just get done with the material and move on. So I feel that I will kind of cut those students a little bit of slack, that I can just tell are really putting in the effort, and that I know that they know the material, just not necessarily can transfer on paper very well, because there are some students who are better at verbal communication with their knowledge of the material. The last question was, how does good or bad behavior affect grading? And fortunately, behavior does affect grading. I know in my 200 class, my professor shared a story with us that was on YouTube, and the student that this one teacher had was just really bad. He acted up in class a lot, and the teacher even said it got to the point where she found joy in marking bad grades on the student's paper. So unfortunately it does happen, and I think that if there's a student in particular that a teacher just kind of isn't too keen on, she might not want to give them great grades all the time. But when I'm a teacher, I think I'm going to try, well, not think, I know I'm going to try to not really let that affect how I grade my students' papers, because just because someone doesn't have the best behavior in class doesn't determine their intelligence level, or just because someone has really good behavior and they might be a star student behavior wise, they might not be a star student on paper. So I just think it's not that it's not fair, but it's not fair if you mark a bad grade for a student who does really well in school but doesn't behave the greatest, and student who doesn't do well in their schoolwork but does phenomenal in the classroom. So I'll just try to keep that stuff aside when I'm grading papers. And the choice question I chose was, how could implementing CHAMPS into a learning environment increase student achievement? And I think that CHAMPS, I know we talked about that in the first section last week, and I think it is a wonderful tool, and I've seen it been implemented in my sister's classroom. Like the school that my sister teaches at, they have the voice levels. So if they're too loud, we'll say level 1, so they know they need to bring it down to a whisper or a really quiet tone. And I think that this can help increase student achievement, because I think that CHAMPS really teaches them structure, especially with all the categories CHAMPS really hits on. So I feel like when you teach a student structure in school, that can cause them to focus a little bit more, and if they're able to focus more in school, that could potentially lead to higher grades. And I also think that with CHAMPS, in order to, like, talking about like better focus, CHAMPS is a good way to try and eliminate other distractions around the room. So if one student's working on an assignment and the student beside her is already done, then CHAMPS could be a good way to keep the student who's already done like on task with something else and know that they still need to be quiet because other students are working. So this could help other students as well. So I guess that is my discussion board. Thanks, guys.